Welcome back to KEEPUP News Channel. Starmer dismisses demands for £10.5 billion of compensation for so-called WASPI women, despite previously backing huge payouts over bungled state pension age increase. Keir Starmer was accused of breaking promises to so-called WASPI women today after dismissing calls for them to receive £10.5 billion in compensation. An estimated 3.8 million born between April 6, 1950, and April 5, 1960, were affected by a change to the state pension age from 60 to 65 between 2010 and 2020. They say they suffered financially and were left worse off in retirement because they were not given enough notice about it happening. But the PM insisted he could not add to the burden on taxpayers, despite the government apologizing for delays in sending out letters telling them about the change. Campaigners branded a decision to overrule an ombudsman who recommended they should get almost £3,000 each a betrayal and a day of shame, with Labour already under fire from pensioners for slashing winter fuel payments. The party's own backbenchers lined up to condemn the rejection in Parliament, branding it appalling. The head of the Unite Union, Sharon Graham, branded it a disgrace, and senior Tories took aim at Labour's cynicism in siding with WASPI campaigners prior to winning power. Sir Keir previously supported Jeremy Corbyn's pledge to give WASPI women £58 billion during the 2019 general election, and endorsed fair and fast compensation as recently as 2022. Conservative MP Helen Wadley, the Shadow Work and Pensions Secretary, told Labour they needed to own their decision not to provide compensation. She warned the government they could not try to dodge responsibility by suggesting to WASPI women that, if times were different, they might have come to a different conclusion. "I am not going to let them get away with saying that there is no compensation because of a fictional black hole in the public finances," she added. "The country's financial position now is a result of their political choices." Alicia Kearns, a fellow Tory shadow minister, shared a photo on social media of Labour's Work and Pensions Secretary Liz Kendall previously posing with WASPI campaigners when not in government. "I'm guessing we'll be hearing a lot of Labour's current favourite line, 'That was our position in opposition, but now we're in government,'" she wrote. Former Tory cabinet minister Sir Simon Clarke said the deep cynicism of Labour in opposition is coming back to haunt them in government. Announcing the government's decision in the Commons earlier, Ms. Kendall flatly rejected an ombudsman's report suggesting a scheme of payouts of up to £2,950 for each individual affected. She claimed most women knew about the change anyway and suffered no direct financial loss. She argued that a compensation scheme for more than 3 million people would impose significant cost on the taxpayer and not be fair or appropriate. But the report by the Parliamentary and Health Service Ombudsman, PHSO, found that affected women should have had at least 28 months more individual notice of the changes by the Department for Work and Pensions. It also said that for women who were not aware of the changes, the opportunity that additional notice would have given them to adjust their retirement plans was lost due to delay. The PHSO further suggested that compensation at level 4, ranging between £1,000 and £2,950, could be appropriate for each of those affected. Speaking to broadcasters on a visit to Estonia today, Sir Keir said he understood the anger of those affected. The Ombudsman's findings were clear in relation to maladministration, but also clear about the lack of direct financial injustice, as the Ombudsman saw it, he said. "That's why we've taken the decision that we've taken. But I do understand, of course, the concern of the WASPI women. But also, I have to take into account whether it's right at the moment to impose a further burden on the taxpayer, which is what it would be." Ms. Kendall said the PHSO report doesn't sufficiently recognize that 73% of women were aware of the age increase. She told the Commons, "These two facts, that most women knew the state pension age was increasing and that letters aren't as significant as the Ombudsman says, as well as other reasons, have informed our conclusion that there should be no scheme of financial compensation to 1950s-born women, in response to the Ombudsman's report." She added, "The alternative put forward in the report is for a flat-rate compensation scheme, at level 4 of the Ombudsman's scale of injustice. This would provide £1,000 to £2,950 per person at a total cost of £3.5 billion and £10.5 billion. Given the vast majority of women knew the state pension age was increasing, the government does not believe paying a flat rate to all women at a cost of up to £10.5 billion would be fair or proportionate to taxpayers. Ms. Kendall said the rejection of a scheme was an extremely difficult decision to take. She added, "We believe it is the right course of action, and we are determined to learn all the lessons to ensure this type of maladministration never happens again." The Work and Pensions Secretary said the government would develop an action plan to fix problems identified in the report, and set a clear notice of any future changes to the state pension age. She said that future pension communications would also use the most up-to-date methods to contact those affected, and cited the existing online Check Your State Pension service. Ms. Kendall said, "We haven't taken this decision lightly, but we believe it is the right decision because the great majority of women knew the state pension age was increasing. Sending letters earlier wouldn't have made a difference for most, and the proposed compensation scheme isn't fair or value for taxpayers' money." However, a string of Labour MP criticized the government in the House. Brian Leishman, MP for Alloa and Grangemouth, said, "Firstly, I'd like to say I'm appalled at this announcement, and I have campaigned with WASPI women, as have many parliamentary colleagues, and this is an incredible letdown. WASPI women, in my opinion, certainly do not need words of disappointment, and they certainly do not need hollow statements. What they need is justice." Mr. Leishman later told LBC he was raging at the government's decision, adding, "This is a matter of fairness, I think, plain and simple, and the WASPI women have been historically let down, and not just let down, but they've been betrayed. And I think that the government's failure to properly communicate pension changes left thousands, if not millions, of women struggling at a time when they should have been able to plan for a dignified retirement." Gareth Snell, who represents Stoke for Labour, told the Commons, "This will be a sad moment for the 4,000 women in Stoke-on-Trent Central who I have previously campaigned alongside for justice and a fair transition, and I understand the Secretary of State's need to balance the budget given what was left by the previous government. But could I ask her, is this no compensation now because of the economic circumstances we find ourselves in, or is it a no compensation ever? If we find ourselves in the future in a much better economic state, will she consider readdressing this issue and seeing what compensation might be available for those women that were affected?" Great Grimsby and Cleethorpes MP Melanie On said women had quit jobs based on incorrect information about pensions. Liz Kendall says this report is about the way that it was communicated to those 1950s-born women, and earlier letters would not have made a difference, she said. "But I say they would have made a difference. They would have made a difference when it comes to individuals' financial planning, in their retirement dates and notice they were giving to their jobs, from their wider family arrangements and commitments that they made. There have undoubtedly been losses for those 1950s-born women, and the Honourable Member for Stoke Central has just given the government an opportunity to reconsider this at some point in the future. Is she sure that she won't take that offer?" Outside Parliament, Angela Madden, chair of Women Against State Pension Inequality, said, "The government has today made an unprecedented political choice to ignore the clear recommendations of an independent watchdog which ordered ministers urgently to compensate WASPI women 9 months ago. This is a bizarre and totally unjustified move which will leave everyone asking what the point of an ombudsman is if ministers can simply ignore their decisions. It feels like a decision that would make the likes of Boris Johnson and Donald Trump blush. The idea that an action plan to avoid such mistakes in future should be the result of a 6-year ombudsman's investigation is an insult both to the women and to the PHSO process." An overwhelming majority of MPs back WASPI's calls for fair compensation, and all options remain on the table. Parliament must now seek an alternative mechanism to force this issue onto the order paper so justice can be done. Source: dailymail.co.uk. Please like, share and subscribe. Thank you for watching.